My name is Muswata Aaron, and I'm going to share with you some knowledge in ICT or computer studies. I'm from Namugongo Secondary and Vocational School. Welcome to today's lesson. Now, our lesson is basically going to be about a computer system. So by the end of this lesson, your expectations should be that you should be able to know what a computer system is, what it comprises of, and everything that concerns a computer system. Now, we have started. Number one, just like human beings have a body, and our bodies have different systems. For example, if you have a heart, there is the circulatory system, but it does not work alone. A human or the body does not work alone. It works with different systems in order for you to be alive. For example, it has the circulatory system, which involves the heart. It has the respiratory system, which involves the lungs. You see, so all these elements, the excretory system, which involves the liver and all those things. Now, in all these systems, they work together for a purpose. Now, at the end of the day, the purpose of the whole human system is to make sure that the body functions well, is that you breathe and move and do the different things that you do. Now, it is very interesting that computers also operate in a similar way. And that is what we call a computer system. Now, our first question would be, what is a computer system? So, a computer system is a series of computer hardware, software, data, and user procedures that work together to accomplish a task. Now, remember, like I said, all these systems in your body, they work together in order to accomplish a task. Let's say, a task that you are alive, moving and breathing and all those things that you do as a human. And so does the computer system. Now, I'm going to explain a little bit more. We are saying that a system, it comprises of elements. Now, our question would be, what are the elements that make up a computer system? The first one is hardware. We have hardware, software, data and information. Then we have humanware, which we can call people or users. Now, let me break it down a little bit. For instance, if you want to send someone a letter, if you want to draft a letter for someone, the whole system is involved. How? For example, you need to have hardware, which we are going to see. Now, hardware are the physical or tangible components of a computer. Two, you will need to have software. Software would be the program that you would use. For example, if you're using software like Microsoft Word. Number three, you need to have the data or information that you want to send. And then lastly, number four, you need to have a human, you yourself, in order to what? To type your message and draft it, and then later send the letter or print it out. Now, the first element I said is computer hardware. A question would come to your mind. What is computer hardware? Now, hardware refers to the physical and tangible components of a computer. By that, what do we mean? We mean that these devices can be touched and felt. For instance, I'm taking you back to my example that I started with. Every time we're talking about a computer system, I want you to think in mind. Every time this word comes up, I want you to think about the human. For example, a human being has hands. Now, in this case, hands are what we would relate as hardware in a computer system. The physical components of a computer. So hardware to a human system would be your body parts. They are physical, they can be touched, they can be felt. Now it is the same or similar to a computer. Whatever component of a computer that you can touch but is related to a computer, we call it hardware. Now, interestingly, hardware is also divided or categorized into different categories. For example, one of the categories is input or input devices. Then the other one, output devices. Then another category, storage hardware or devices. Then another one, processing hardware. Then lastly, communication hardware. Now all these are categories. All these things are categories that make up hardware. Everything that you use on a computer that is physical falls under this one of these categories. For instance, I want us to focus, or I'm going to explain a little more about input devices. I want you to remember, stay with me, we are talking about hardware now. As what? As an element of a computer system. So input devices, these are devices that are used to enter data into a computer. Or we can also say that these are devices that are used to feed data into what? A computer. For example, if I have my letter, remember our example is that I want to send someone a letter. How can I get the message in my head or on a piece of paper into the computer? I will need a device that feeds my computer with this data. Now, for instance, I will need a keyboard. A keyboard. I will need a keyboard, something like this. It has the letters I want to feed in. It has the words. It has the letters that make up the words that I want to put in my data. So I will need this keyboard as an input device. It feeds data into the computer. Now, this is one of the examples, our keyboard. Another example that we have, or that we usually use, is a mouse. We use a mouse to feed data into a computer. Now, another example is an optical mark reader, a voice recognition system. I know you are wondering, a voice recognition system? Yes. Everyone that has a smartphone, that smartphone has a voice recognition system. That is why you're able to give Google instructions by just speaking to your phone, and then it will listen to what you're saying, and it will give you, or it will do what you have said. Now that is still input. You are feeding in the computer, which is your phone. You're feeding in information or data that is being processed by your phone, and it will execute the instructions you have given to it. Then we have a digital camera. Yes, when you take a photo, it takes in the image that is input, then a track point. And other examples. Okay, we have other examples. There are many more examples. There are quite many. Now, one of the tasks that I give you is to look around you and see what other devices can I use to feed data into a computer. Now, on top of feeding into, after you have fed the computer, again it has to display what you have fed in. Now, those devices or the hardware that shows you what is being processed or what has been processed are what we call output hardware or output devices. Devices that display or produce what has been fed into a computer. Now, some of us confuse get confused when it comes to sound and images. Okay? For example, a monitor or a screen. Yes, a screen, your computer screen, displays a soft copy. It displays a soft copy of what you have fed into the computer. Now, it is an output device because in that moment it is displaying to you. So it is outputting what has been or what is being processed in the computer. But then, another interesting device is a speaker or an earphone. Now, an earphone will produce sound. Sound is also output. You know, don't mix these things. We usually have a problem where we get confused. We get confused thinking that output has to be only a soft copy of something or something that you see. No, sometimes output is something that you hear. For example, when you connect a speaker or earphones to your computer or phone, it gives you output that is in form of what? Sound. So we have categories of output. Categories. How can we distinguish the various categories of output? There is text output where you have words. There is graphics output where you have images, pictures, photos. That is what we call graphics. Then there is audio where we have sound. Okay? Sound. Sound is output. I repeat. Sound is, or audio is also output. So when you're asked to give some of the examples of output devices, a speaker is very correct. However, another mistake that we make is we say that a microphone is an output device. No, it's not. However, interestingly, a microphone is an input device because when you speak on the microphone, the data is fed into the computer, okay, or the mixer, those of you who use public address systems. Now, the microphone does not produce any sound. It doesn't. It just inputs or feeds a computer with sound. So that is another mistake that is common with us. Yes. Now, we have been talking about a microphone, and I kept on emphasizing that it feeds data into a computer. Now, what we are seeing is a microphone as an example of an input device. Like I said earlier, we speak into it and it takes the information or data, for the sake I think it is data, to the computer. Now, there is something interesting I want us to note. We have looked at two types of computer hardware, that is input and output. But there is this interesting device, and that is a digital camera. For it, it is input as well as output. Because when you get your camera to take a photo, it takes in the image, okay? Before you take the photo, when you take the photo is taken into the system, the computer. You can even use it to feed the computer with images. But as well, it can be used to display the images that you have taken. So it is input as well as it can be output. It is one of the few devices that are both input and output. Now, like I said in the beginning, that a computer system is similar to the body system. Every part or element of a computer system works together in order to accomplish one task. And I say that we need hardware, software, humanware, and data. We need those four elements for a task to be accomplished. As I conclude, I'll still repeat for you and say that, for example, if you want to write a letter, send it to someone using a computer. One, you need to have a computer. That is, you need hardware. You need physical components like a keyboard, a mouse, a monitor, and the others that we have looked at. Then you also need software. Now, software is a set of instructions or a series of instructions that tell a computer what to do. Software like Microsoft Word or WPS if you're using a phone. Then you'll also need to have data or information. What are you sending? You need to have it. Now that you need to have the data somewhere written or in your head. Then lastly, we need to have the human where, the user, you who is going to send the letter and who is going to type and feed it in and tell all these other elements what to do. Now, by the end, you have accomplished a task when you have printed or sent out or posted your letter to someone. That brings us to the end of today's lesson. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Remember, we are Namgongo Secondary